I stood in front of the mirror adjusting my bow tie for what felt like the 100th time. My hands trembled slightly, nerves, excitement, and everything in between. Today was my wedding day. I grabbed my phone to check the time and noticed a Facebook notification from my sister Amanda. I tapped it open and froze. There was my entire family smiling on a Hawaiian beach. The caption read, "A real family together. No one left out." My stomach dropped. They had all skipped my wedding for a vacation. I liked the post and replied, "Fine, now you can party without me." Before I tell you how my own family stabbed me in the back on what should have been the happiest day of my life, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted. Growing up in suburban Massachusetts, my parents, Thomas and Diana, preached family first at every opportunity. It was our household mantra, repeated at dinner tables, family gatherings, and whenever one of us kids had the audacity to put our own needs first. But even as a child, I noticed the uneven application of this sacred rule. When my younger sister Amanda needed something, the world stopped turning until she got it. When my brother Jason wanted attention, he received it in spades. But for me, Chuck, the middle child, family first, often translated to everyone else first. Despite this, I maintained a deep connection with my family, especially my grandmother Margaret. She was different, treating me not as the forgotten middle child, but as an individual worthy of love and attention. When she passed away last year, I felt like I had lost my strongest ally. The only silver lining in that dark time was Jessica. I met Jessica at a charity run for children's cancer research. I was there supporting a colleague whose son was in remission. She was there as a pediatric nurse who worked with these brave kids every day. She stood out immediately, not just because of her warm smile or the way she high-fived every child who crossed the finish line, but because of the genuine care that radiated from her every action. "You look like you could use this," she said, handing me a water bottle after the run. I was sweaty, exhausted, and apparently, according to her, staring into space like a man contemplating the universe. That water bottle led to coffee, which led to dinner, which led to the most authentic relationship I had ever experienced. Jessica loved without condition or expectation, something foreign to me given my family dynamic. She supported my career as a software engineer when my father constantly questioned why I had not followed him into law. She listened when I talked about my grandmother holding my hand through tear-filled nights after her passing. When I introduced Jessica to my family 6 months into our relationship, their response was lukewarm at best. My mother gave her the once-over, noting with a thin smile that she seems nice enough. My father asked about her family background with the subtle interrogation techniques perfected over 20 years of legal practice. Amanda barely acknowledged her while Jason spent the evening making inside jokes that deliberately excluded Jessica. "They just need time," I assured her on the drive home, not entirely believing it myself. Time did nothing to improve the situation. If anything, as our relationship solidified and we began discussing marriage, my family became increasingly distant. The proposal should have been a moment of celebration. I used my grandmother's vintage ring, a modest but elegant diamond, set in white gold, that she had secretly given me before her passing. "This is for the woman who truly sees you, Charles," she had said, using my full name as she always did in serious moments. "I have watched you shrink yourself to fit into spaces too small for your spirit. Do not make the same mistake with love." When I called my parents to share the news of our engagement, my mother's first question was not, "How did you propose?" or "When is the wedding?" But "You did not use your grandmother's ring, did you?" Amanda has always expected to have that. The wedding planning revealed deeper fissures in our family relationship. Jessica and I wanted a smaller, meaningful ceremony, about 75 guests, an outdoor venue by a local lake, and personalized vows. My parents pushed for a 200-person extravaganza at the country club they could not afford, but insisted on paying for. "What will people think if my only son has a backyard wedding?" my mother lamented during one particularly tense dinner. "It is not a backyard, Mom. It is a lakeside garden with a historic pavilion," I corrected for the 5th time. Semantics my father dismissed with a wave. Your cousin Patricia had 500 guests at the Plaza Hotel. And now she is divorced and still paying off wedding debt, I countered, which earned me a cold stare. The guest list became another battleground. Names of distant relatives and my parents' business associates appeared on their proposed list. People I had met once at family reunions, or never at all. We have to invite the Hendersons. Your father has known Howard since law school, my mother insisted. But I have never met Howard, or any Henderson, I argued. Family connections matter, Chuck. You would understand if you cared about anyone besides yourself and that nurse. That comment revealed the heart of the issue, Jessica. For all their complaints about venues and guest lists, my family's true objection was to the woman I had chosen. She was not from a prestigious background. Her parents, kind, hard-working people who had embraced me immediately, owned a small hardware store in a working-class neighborhood. She had chosen a career of service rather than one that accumulated wealth or status. In my family's eyes, these were unforgivable shortcomings. The distance between us grew as the wedding date approached. My mother canceled dress shopping with Jessica at the last minute, claiming a migraine. Later that day, Jessica saw her Instagram story shopping with Amanda for vacation essentials. When I confronted my mother, her response chilled me. You are overreacting, Chuck. The world does not revolve around your wedding. Amanda has needed new swimsuits for months. You could have been honest about canceling on Jessica. It was not a big deal. Your fiancé seems quite sensitive. Is that really the kind of person you want to spend your life with? That comment should have been my warning. Instead, I made excuses, hoping that once the wedding happened, once they saw how happy Jessica made me, they would come around. I was desperately clinging to the family mythology we had constructed that we were close, supportive, and loving, when the reality had always been conditional acceptance at best. As the wedding week arrived, an unusual silence descended from my family's end. My father missed the rehearsal dinner, citing a work emergency. My mother attended but spent most of the evening on her phone, smiling secretly at messages I could not see. Amanda and Jason both claimed food poisoning at the last minute. The empty chairs at our rehearsal dinner table spoke volumes, but I still refused to hear their message. Jessica's parents noticed. Her father, Frank, a man of few words but profound insight, pulled me aside as the evening wound down. Chuck, I need to say something, and I hope you take it in the spirit intended. He began, his hand steady on my shoulder. A man chooses his wife, but he is born to his family. Sometimes the family you are born to is not the family you deserve. Jessica is our daughter, but from tomorrow, you are our son. Whatever happens, you have family standing with you. I nodded, touched, but not yet understanding how prophetic his words would prove to be. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and clear, the kind of early autumn day that feels like a gift from the universe. I woke before my alarm, excitement coursing through me despite the tension of the previous weeks. Today I would marry Jessica, the woman who had shown me what unconditional love actually felt like. My best man, Tyler, a college friend who had stood by me through countless life chapters, arrived early at my apartment, coffee and breakfast in hand. The groom needs fuel, he announced, setting down a bag of bagels. Big day, buddy. How are you feeling? Excited. Nervous. Ready, I replied, checking my phone. No messages from my family. I tried calling my father straight to voicemail. My mother's phone rang several times before disconnecting. Neither Amanda nor Jason responded to my texts asking when they would arrive at the venue. They will show up, Tyler assured me, but I heard the doubt in his voice. By noon, as we arrived at the venue to begin getting ready, my family's absence had become impossible to ignore. Jessica's parents approached me cautiously. Chuck, honey. Her mother began, concern, etching lines around her kind eyes. Is your family running late? The coordinator needs to know when to expect them for the pre-ceremony photos. I'm sure they are just stuck in traffic. I lied, feeling a hollow pit form in my stomach. Let me try calling again. I stepped into a quiet corner of the dressing area, phone clutched in my hand. That is when the notification came through. Amanda had tagged our entire family in a post. With a sense of dread washing over me, I opened Facebook. The photo showed my parents, Amanda, Jason, and several aunts and uncles on a white sand beach, tropical drinks in hand, leash around their necks. They were smiling broadly. Sunglasses reflecting the Hawaiian Sunday. The timestamp showed it had been posted 20 minutes ago. The caption read, "A real family together. No one left out. Best surprise vacation ever. Number Ohana time. Number family. First." The comments beneath were even more revealing. "So glad we could all make it. Much better than some awkward ceremony. My Aunt Susan. Perfect timing for a getaway. My Uncle Robert. A real family celebration. My mother." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. This was not a last-minute trip. This was planned, deliberately scheduled to coincide with my wedding day. The family first mantra apparently excluded me and the life I had chosen. With hands that felt oddly steady given the emotional earthquake happening inside me, I liked the post and commented, "Fine. Now you can party without me." Then I left the family group chat we had maintained for years. I set down my phone and stared at my reflection in the mirror, a groom in a half-buttoned shirt abandoned by his blood relations on his wedding day. That is how Jessica found me minutes later. One look at my face told her everything. "What happened?" she asked, breaking the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. In that moment, such superstitions seemed trivial. I wordlessly handed her my phone. She looked at the post, her expression shifting from confusion to shock to a fierce protective anger. Those absolute Tekken. She cut herself off, taking a deep breath. "Chuck, I am so sorry." "Not your fault," I managed, feeling strangely calm in the eye of the emotional storm. "You know what the worst part is? I am not even surprised. Disappointed, yes. Hurt, definitely. But not surprised." Jessica's parents arrived moments later, alerted by their daughter. Frank's face darkened as Jessica explained the situation. Her mother, Linda, moved immediately to my side, her arm around my shoulders in a maternal gesture my own mother had rarely offered. "What do you want to do?" Chuck Frank asked directly. "This is your day, your call." Tyler, who had been silently witnessing this scene unfold, spoke up. "Whatever you decide, man, I am with you. We can postpone, we can proceed, we can go get hammered and forget this day ever happened. But do not let them win by ruining what should be a celebration." I looked around the room at Jessica's worried face, at her parents' supportive presence, at Tyler's unwavering friendship, and I made a decision. "We are getting married today," I stated firmly. "The people who truly want to be part of our life are here. That is all that matters." The ceremony proceeded with one significant change. As we discussed who would walk me down the aisle given my father's absence, Frank stepped forward. "I would be honored to stand in if that feels right to you," he offered. So it was that I walked toward my future wife, accompanied by the father of the bride, a man who had shown me more genuine paternal support in 2 years than my biological father had in 32 years of life. The seats on my side of the aisle were conspicuously empty at first glance. But before the ceremony began, Jessica's extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, I had met only a handful of times, quietly redistributed themselves, filling in the gaps, refusing to let the physical absence of my family create a visual reminder of their betrayal. When it came time for our vows, the words I had carefully prepared seemed inadequate. Looking into Jessica's eyes, I spoke from the heart instead. "Jessica, today I not only take you as my wife, but also make a promise to build a new kind of family with you, one based on respect, honesty, and unconditional love. You have shown me what true support looks like, and I vow to reflect that back to you every day of our lives. Today some chairs may be empty, but my heart is fuller than it has ever been, because it has you in it." There were tears and cheers, dancing and toasting. To anyone who did not know better, it might have seemed like any other joyous wedding. Only the occasional glance at my phone, still silent, no calls or messages from Hawaii, betrayed the complicated emotions beneath my smile. That night, as Jessica and I retreated to our hotel suite, she asked the question I had been avoiding all day. "What happens next? With your family, I mean." I stared at the ceiling, my new wife's head resting on my chest. I honestly do not know. But whatever it is, we will face it together. My family returned from Hawaii a week after our wedding while Jessica and I were on our honeymoon in Maine, a peaceful coastal retreat rather than the European tour we had originally planned before discovering my family's pregnant betrayal. I had turned off social media notifications, but the text came through directly from my mother. "We are back home. Hope the ceremony went smoothly. You chose a date that did not work for our schedule, but these things happen. Call when you have time." No acknowledgement of their deliberate absence. No apology. Just a casual deflection of responsibility that ignited a slow-burning anger in my chest. I showed the message to Jessica, who read it with widening eyes. "That is breathtakingly dismissive," she said finally. "Welcome to the family dynamic I grew up with," I replied, putting my phone away without responding. "Let us enjoy the rest of our honeymoon. They can wait." More messages trickled in over the following days. Jason texted, "Mom says you are upset about the Hawaii thing. It was just a ceremony, bro. Get over it." Amanda posted passive-aggressive quotes about toxic people who demand attendance at their special events on Instagram, clearly aimed at me, though never mentioning me by name. I maintained radio silence, focusing instead on the beautiful beginning of our married life. Jessica and I returned home, settled back into work, and began discussing our future, where we wanted to live long-term, when we might start a family, what our goals were individually and as a couple. 3 weeks after our return, the confrontation I had been avoiding arrived literally on our doorstep. My entire family, parents, siblings, even an aunt, showed up unannounced at our apartment on a Sunday afternoon. "We need to talk," my father announced when I opened the door, his tone suggesting he was initiating a business negotiation rather than an overdue apology. Against my better judgment, I let them in. Jessica squeezed my hand supportively as we all crowded into our modest living room. "You have been ignoring us," my mother began, her voice carrying the familiar note of martyrdom I had grown up with. "It is very childish, Chuck." "Childish," I repeated, barely containing my incredulity. "You all deliberately skipped my wedding for a Hawaiian vacation, and I am the childish one." "It was already planned," Amanda interjected defensively. "Mom and Dad have been promising me this trip for ages, and it just happened to be scheduled exactly on my wedding weekend. The date that was set 6 months ago." An uncomfortable silence fell, broken by my father clearing his throat. "Look, Chuck, we might have handled this poorly, but you need to understand our position. We have never been entirely comfortable with your choice of partner." The bluntness of his statement stunned me momentarily. Jessica stiffened beside me but remained silent. "What my husband means," my mother hurried to add, "is that we had hoped you would choose someone more aligned with our family values and background. Someone from a family like the Andersons," Jason supplied helpfully. "You know people in our social circle." The conversation deteriorated from there, years of unspoken resentments and expectations flooding to the surface. My family spoke over each other in their rush to justify their actions. "We were hoping you would realize this relationship was not right before the wedding. Jessica seems nice, but she is just not what we pictured for you. Amanda deserved a special trip. After her breakup, we figured you would understand. Family comes first." Throughout their jumbled excuses, one thing became crystal clear: the Hawaii trip had been deliberately planned as a statement. My family had collectively decided to show me exactly where I stood in their hierarchy of importance. It was Amanda who finally confirmed this, perhaps unintentionally. "It is not fair that Grandma gave you her ring," she blurted in response to my question about why they would hurt me so deliberately. "It was supposed to be mine. Everyone knew that." "So this was revenge for the ring?" I asked, pieces clicking into place. "Not revenge," my mother corrected primly. "We just felt it would be better to distance ourselves from a union we could not wholeheartedly support." I looked at each of their faces. These people who had shaped my childhood, who had taught me to doubt my worth, who had consistently shown me that my feelings and choices were secondary to everyone else's. And in that moment of clarity, I felt something unexpected. Not rage or heartbreak, but a profound sense of liberation. "I need you all to leave," I said, quietly but firmly. "Chuck, do not be dramatic," my father began. "I am not being dramatic. I am setting a boundary." For perhaps the first time in my life, my voice grew stronger with each word. "When you are ready to acknowledge what you did, how deeply you hurt me, and offer a genuine apology, not excuses or justifications, we can talk. Until then, I need space from all of you." "You are choosing her over your blood family?" Amanda asked incredulously. I looked at Jessica, who had weathered this entire ambush with dignity, and then back at my sister. "I am choosing respect over disrespect, love over manipulation. And yes, if those lines happen to fall between Jessica and you right now, then I am choosing her." The expressions of disbelief on their faces might have been comical in another context, as if the concept of me standing up for myself was utterly inconceivable to them. After more protests and attempts to regain control of the narrative, they finally left my mother's parting shot ringing in the air. "When you come to your senses, we will be waiting." After they left, Jessica and I sat in silence for several minutes, processing the confrontation. Finally, she turned to me. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I considered the question carefully. Actually, yes. For the first time in my life, I think I might be. That evening, we had a long, honest conversation about our future. Jessica had recently been offered a position at a prestigious children's hospital in Seattle, a significant career advancement she had been hesitant to mention given our recent marriage and roots on the East Coast. But the opportunity was exceptional both professionally and financially. "Maybe this is our fresh start," I suggested. "New city, new home, new boundaries." Over the next few weeks, we made our plans quietly. I requested a transfer to my company's Seattle office, which they readily approved. We researched neighborhoods' housing markets and began the logistics of a cross-country move. Through it all, I maintained my distance from my family, responding to their increasingly frequent messages with brief, polite, but non-committal replies. What my family did not know was that my grandmother Margaret had left me more than just her ring. There had been a modest inheritance as well, money she had specifically designated for building the life you choose, not the one chosen for you. With these funds, Jessica and I were able to make a down payment on a charming craftsman home in a vibrant Seattle neighborhood. We moved without telling my family our destination, sharing our new address only with Jessica's parents and my few close friends. It was not meant as retaliation, but as self-preservation, a chance to establish our new life without immediate interference. Of course, in the age of social media, our relocation did not remain secret for long. A casual check-in at a Seattle coffee shop, a tagged photo from a new colleague, the digital breadcrumbs were easy enough to follow. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Calls, texts, emails flooded in. "You moved across the country without telling us. How could you just leave without saying goodbye? We are trying to talk to you. Please pick up. We are your family." My brother even called my workplace, claiming a family emergency. My sister bombarded Jessica's social media with guilt-inducing comments. But the most dramatic response came 2 months after our move, when my parents and siblings showed up on our doorstep in Seattle, unannounced, and clearly expecting to be welcomed inside. Standing on our porch in the gentle Seattle rain, they looked smaller, somehow less intimidating than they once had been. My mother's eyes widened as she took in the evidence of our new life. The house we had purchased, the neighborhood we had chosen, all without their input or approval. "You cannot just cut us off," my father stated, water dripping from his coat. "We are your family. You are welcome to call and schedule a time to talk," I responded calmly. "But showing up unannounced does not work for me anymore. We have been knocking and calling, trying to talk," Amanda added tearfully. "Please open up. We are your family." I stood firm in the doorway, neither inviting them in nor sending them away immediately. Family is more than blood relation. It is respect, support, and love, even when choices differ from your own. You have demonstrated repeatedly that those are conditional offerings from you. Eventually, I agreed to meet them the next day at a neutral location, a coffee shop near their hotel. Jessica offered to join me, but I felt this was a conversation I needed to have alone first. The Seattle coffee shop provided the perfect backdrop for our confrontation-neutral territory, filled with enough ambient noise for privacy, but public enough to encourage civility. I arrived early, choosing a corner table and ordering a black coffee to steady my nerves. When my family walked in, all four of them moving as a unit as they always had, I took a deep breath and centered myself. "Thank you for meeting us," my father began formally after they had settled with their drinks. He looked uncomfortable, his usual commanding presence diminished somewhat by the unfamiliar surroundings. "I appreciate you respecting my boundaries by scheduling this meeting," I replied evenly. My mother flinched slightly at my phrasing. "Boundaries within families seem very California to me," she said with a tight smile. "We are flesh and blood, Charles. There should not be walls between us." "What happened at the wedding?" my father started. "What did not happen at the wedding," I corrected gently but firmly. "Your absence was a choice. We made a mistake." My father conceded the admission, clearly difficult for him. "The timing of the Hawaii trip was unfortunate." "Unfortunate implies accident." "It was deliberate," I countered. "Amanda already confirmed that." My sister shot me a betrayed look, which I met steadily until she looked away. "Fine," my mother said after an uncomfortable silence. "Yes, we deliberately chose to go to Hawaii instead of attending your wedding. We felt overlooked and disregarded during your engagement. The ring should have gone to Amanda. Your grandmother always intended, Mom." Jason interrupted, surprising everyone. "This is not helping." My brother, who had always competed with me and rarely taken my side, looked at me directly. What they did was wrong. What we all did was wrong. I went along with it because it was easier than standing up to them, and because I have always been jealous of how easily things came to you. His unexpected honesty created an opening. For the next hour, we talked. Really talked, perhaps, for the first time in our adult lives. There were defensive moments, tearful accusations, and painful admissions on all sides. My mother broke down when I described how it felt to discover their beach photos on my wedding day. My father struggled to articulate his fears that I was moving beyond the family's influence. Amanda reluctantly acknowledged her role in orchestrating the timing of the trip. "I was hurt about the ring," she admitted. "But I never thought about how my actions would hurt you. I just wanted Mom and Dad to focus on me for once." Her words revealed how our parents had inadvertently pitted us against each other for years, creating a dynamic where we competed for love and attention rather than supporting each other. "I cannot pretend everything is fine now," I told them, as our conversation wound down. "Trust takes time to rebuild." "What do you need from us?" My father asked the question itself, representing significant growth from the man who had always told me what I needed rather than asking. I outlined clear terms: respect for Jessica, as my chosen partner, acknowledgement of their actions without deflection, family therapy before any attempt to fully reunite, and absolute acceptance that our life in Seattle was not up for debate. "I would like to try," my mother said finally. "I do not want to lose my son." "You never lost me," I replied. "You just never fully accepted who I actually am." They returned to Boston the next day, but with something new established between us. Not instant forgiveness or immediate healing, but the first fragile bridge across the chasm their actions had created. Over the following months, we maintained contact through scheduled video calls. My parents found a family therapist and began sessions initially resistant but gradually more engaged. Jason visited on his own, spending a weekend getting to know Jessica without our parents' influence. Amanda sent a handwritten letter of apology, the first genuine communication we had shared in years. 6 months after their Seattle visit, Jessica and I had life-changing news to share. We were expecting our first child. We decided to announce it during our family's first joint, gathering a carefully planned dinner when my parents came to meet Jessica's parents. The meal had begun tensely, two family cultures trying to find common ground. But when we shared our news, something shifted. My mother's eyes filled with tears, not of manipulation or self-pity, but of genuine joy. "A grandchild," she whispered, reaching tentatively for Jessica's hand. "May I?" That simple request for permission rather than assumption of right represented everything I had been asking for. Jessica nodded, and my mother gently placed her hand on my wife's still flat stomach. "I want to do better," she said, looking between us. "For this little one, for both of you. I want to be the mother and grandmother you all deserve." As we prepared the nursery in the following months, I often found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. The betrayal on our wedding day had been painful beyond words, but it had forced a necessary reckoning. Without that breaking point, we might have continued in the same dysfunctional patterns indefinitely, eventually passing them on to our child. One evening, as Jessica and I assembled the crib, she noticed me lost in thought. "Penny, for your thoughts," she asked, resting her growing belly. "I was thinking about something my grandmother told me once. She said that sometimes we need to be broken open to let the light in." I placed my hand beside hers, feeling our baby kick. I think she was right. In our bedroom stood a photo frame with two significant images. Our wedding picture showing us surrounded by Jessica's loving family and friends, who had filled in the empty spaces, and beside it, a newer family photo from last month. All of us together at Thanksgiving, imperfect but trying. The truth is, family is not defined by blood but by love and respect. Sometimes the deepest wounds lead to the most profound healing, and the most difficult boundaries create the healthiest relationships. I do not regret standing up for myself and my wife that day. It taught me that true strength lies in knowing when to forgive, but never forgetting your own worth. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who hurt you? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about finding strength through difficult family situations. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the family we create is as important as the family we were born into.